Indians in general, and specifically to Crazy Horse. They talked off and on for 8 years. Korchak went to the Second World War, and when he came back, he returned here in 1948 and committed to the project and got started. He knew he'd spend the rest of his life here. The first day he was out here, he was up on the mountain and he realized he needed help here because he was going to be working up on the mountain and he needed someone to greet the public. And so he called his friend Ruth to come out and help. And when Ruth came out here, they not so slowly fell in love. They got married on Thanksgiving Day of 1950. And they proceeded to have 10 kids, 5 boys and 5 girls. I think he just knew he needed a lot of help out here.
I guess so.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the hole underneath the arm. Some people call it the tunnel. It will be to your left as I make this turn. It is 60 foot tall by 40 foot wide and 30 foot deep. When it was originally carved, it was 90 foot deep, but we've removed 60 foot of rock going back that way, and that's why that hole is only 30 foot deep now. But when he carved it, it was 90 foot deep. He removed most of the rock by hand with a wheelbarrow. He broke an arm and broke a leg while creating that hole. To date, those are the worst injuries at Crazy Horse Mountain.
Good to know.
Anybody here for their first time? Okay. My first time here was in 1997. I came out here with my family on vacation. I knew absolutely nothing about Crazy Horse. And that day, on that Sunday, there were thousands of people walking up this road to the top. So 2 times a year, there are hikes to the top of Crazy Horse. This year, it's June 3rd and October 1st. 6.2 miles round trip. It took 3.5 hours, and a half hour of that was on top. You don't need to take any refreshments with you. The Boy Scouts are selling refreshments all the way to the top.
All right.
So our mountain is made of pegmatite granite, just like the pegmatite granite at Rushmore. It's just that our mountain is reddish brown and theirs is gray and white, and the difference is all the iron that's in our mountain. So that iron, first of all, it changes the color of the rock. Secondly, it makes it much harder to carve. And third, it attracts lightning. So Crazy Horse has been hit by lightning more times than we can count.
Wow.
Never been damaged. Nevertheless, he is getting a 44-foot feather on top of his head, at the core of which is a lightning rod.
Okay.
We're going to go out to the end of this road and turn around, and then we'll come up here and park and get off the bus for pictures. In the film that's in our visitor center, 20 minutes long, I highly encourage you to see that. Korchak talks about 741 steps that he took to work every day. Those steps were right off the edge of the mountain here that's closest to this road. He had an old crank compressor he called Buddha down at the bottom, and he'd crank that thing up and put 200 pounds of equipment on his back and head up the steps. He'd get almost to the top ready to work and the compressor would quit. He'd have to come all the way back down, restart the compressor, and go back up the steps. One day in the 1950s, he did that 9 times, and he declared he was never going to do it again. And that's when he put in this road that we're driving on. So this is the road that all the workers and hikers, anybody that goes to the top of Crazy Horse, this road is how they get there. It wraps up around the back of the memorial and comes up the right-hand side of the face. Also in the film, you get familiar with this bulldozer that is to our right as I make this turn. Son Casimir drove that bulldozer off the side of the mountain up on top. He was pushing rock off the top and the brakes went out, and so when he went to stop, it just kept on going and went right over the side. His father, Korchak, was working down below, and he looked up and he saw a bulldozer go right over top of his head. When they figured out everybody was okay and no one was hurt, me what we do with all the giant boulders that come down from Crazy Horse. We break them up into smaller rocks and eventually down into gravel. And even son Mark over here, he makes and maintains our roads. When you're in our museum, all the beautiful wooden walls in our museum are made from trees on this property. We're going to come up here and stop and get off the bus for pictures. I'll continue the tour. Please let me get off the bus first so I can make sure that everybody's safe getting off the bus.